Ladies and gentlemen, another day, another Caldera Intel series video, and today we are talking about Lagoon, a very fun and different POI on the map just north of Airfield and just south of Village, which we've done both of those videos already. Go check out the Village one right here. Now, look, just like every other video, we're going to talk through the worst spot to drop in Lagoon, the best spot to drop in Lagoon, and then the rotations I make when I drop Lagoon in and then out of that POI. So let's jump straight into it. So when you look at Lagoon in an overall landscape, it's actually one of the smaller POIs, especially if you limit it to just the area that's kind of surrounded and amongst all of the water that's on the map. And this is the only area on the map that is like this, where the water is a part of the actual overarching landscape. I mean, we saw waterways that came through Village and around ruins, but that's way different. Lagoon is, well, it's a lagoon. It's like a swampland. I mean, there's water everywhere, and water actually grants you a little bit of benefits. So one of the cool things Call of Duty added with this map and the inclusion of water actually on the map that you can run through is that when you are walking through water, your footsteps are extremely hard to see, even when people are using the tracker perk. And if you crouch in water, it actually gives you the benefits of cold-blooded, something to think about when you're in Lagoon. Certainly more effective later once people actually have loadouts, but good to know regardless. Hold up. Hey, if you like the video, like the video. You know what I mean? Subscribe to the channel if you enjoy it. I love making this content, but I can't do it without your help. All right, let's jump right back into it. All right, so when it comes to actually dropping Lagoon, what's the best place to drop, Gojj? And I'm going to do something different in this video. I'm going to tell you the best place to drop when you're fighting and playing for Lagoon to win out Lagoon and then rotating out. We're going to talk about that rotation. But with the rotation, I'm also going to mention my favorite drop spot, which is different than the best drop spot. You'll see what I mean in a second. All right, so when I'm flying down on Lagoon, I actually choose to drop just outside of the water, closer to center map. You're probably getting a bit of a trend here if you've watched all of my videos thus far. I prefer center of the map, especially because this is all under the context of tournament and competitive gameplay and getting better. The center of the map is usually the most aggressive, and I like to be able to choose if I want to play fast or if I want to hold some of the other teams that maybe drop further in, or excuse me, further outside of the map on the outside of Lagoon, and then have to work their way through. And I have the advantage of being able to hold a building should I choose to. Now, usually I get aggressive and push fights, but regardless, this large building just outside of the water, closer to center map, usually has a ton of loot. There's a couple different areas you can jump in and out of windows. There's a balcony. It's a fun place to fight, and you can drop a full team of 4 on this building, get some decent guns, and then be on your merry way. So that's exactly what my team and I did. I believe 3 out of 4 of us dropped here. There's also oftentimes a buy station at this building as well. So if you get lucky enough to find a ton of money early off the rip, you can go ahead and pop a UAV so you have the advantage over some of the other teams that landed more inland of actual Lagoon. So I get my NC41, I'm all locked and loaded, and then you can just hit these strings of tents and buildings here. So there's another kind of large like storage shed, and then there's these sort of cabana looking fruit stands, and they've got loot all around them. I decided to skip out on some of the other ones because there's no one here, so I'm just wanting to show you the rest of Lagoon. And again, beautiful area. You got water all over the place. You can walk through all of it. You have your trees, and they say in the notes that you're not supposed to be able to go prone. There's multiple places in Lagoon that you can go prone. I don't think it'll affect your sightline necessarily of being able to see you in the water, but there is one place where some of the water spills over that I was able to crouch and actually hide in the waterfall, which is comedy and also could be useful, especially if there's an end circle here and you're, you know, instead of Bush Wookie McGee, you're Waterfall Willie. Yeah, we'll go with that. So again, you see these sort of Malaysian style, you know, Eastern Asian Pacific type building structures with the bamboo, the woven and thatched roof, and all of that good stuff. It's very similar to Village in the type of buildings that you're going to find. This is a great area to just pop in a building, grab the loot, pop out, especially the single story ones. Some of them do have 2 stories. And the other thing that is interesting about Lagoon is that because they're propped up on those stilts, there's actually a lot of opportunities to be underneath a building and fight from underneath it. It actually reminds me of Apex on the World's Edge map. So again, there's no one really nearby. I'm kind of just searching around looking for good guns, and then I'll do my rotation out. I like to start that main building that I mentioned and then work my way into Lagoon to clear it if there's enemies here. So your rotation inside of Lagoon is totally dependent on where the enemies are. Traditionally here in Lagoon, I like to go down through center and then take a hard, based on my perspective, left, which would be south through Lagoon. You can actually see where our vehicle is driving here. This is the best place to rotate out, and this is going to take me to my next point. Once you feel comfortable with your guns in Lagoon, and once you feel like you've got your good weapons and you've cleared it out, where do you go next? The answer is always, unless the circle is at the very north side of the map, it is always Airfield. And this is where it gets super interesting. Of course, we're driving an anti-aircraft gun. So, you know, you're sitting back in your chair like, Gojj, yeah, if you have an anti-aircraft gun, go to Airfield, shoot the planes down. That's exactly what we do in this video. But that's not what I'm saying, because when it comes to tournaments, they're probably not even going to allow the planes anyways, or they might play it on the traditional BR where there is no anti-aircraft guns. The reason you want to do this rotation and why I'm going to tell you the best place to drop in Lagoon is because Airfield is one of the hottest drops in the game. And if you loot up Lagoon by yourself or with one other team, you're going to come out stacked with weapons, and the good weapons. We talk about this all the time, but the ground loot in this game is extremely difficult to use if you don't have great attachments. And so if you loot up, find those key really good weapons, whether they're gold or purple automatons, maybe a PPSH or an MP40, and you feel comfortable, you can then go address a bunch of fights in Airfield of teams that have already been fighting each other. And if you're lucky enough to catch some teams near the south side of Airfield, you can probably third or fourth party really easily and pick up some quick and dirty kills. So when it comes to where would I actually drop if I'm going Lagoon, with the right circle, mind you, my favorite place to drop is this section of buildings right next to Airfield for pretty obvious reasons. All right, so this is my official favorite spot to drop when I drop Lagoon, and it's a little bit cheesy because it's just on the outer edge of Lagoon, still within the water. So even in Lagoon proper, if you make it smaller than the original map that we talked about with the yellow lines, all that good stuff, this is a really cool area to drop. First and foremost, the reason I drop here is because of the rotation to Airfield. We talked about third partying. We talked about wanting to have the right weapons for that third party position, and landing just outside of Airfield, you're going to have a lot quieter of a drop. Maybe if you're a faster paced player, but you're not that comfortable with very bad weapons, which I feel like a lot of us aren't, this is actually a great place to start and still be within the reach of a lot of action. And this is something that I feel like a lot of players don't do well. They think I gotta play like my favorite streamer, I have to drop hot, and then you just die until you get lucky. This is a way to kind of mitigate that luck a little bit. Take a little bit of control of your gameplay, drop in these buildings on the outside of Lagoon, and then rotate into Airfield. I have found some pretty decent loot in these buildings. There's also this really cool crash plane over on the right side as well that you can rotate through the bottom and then up through Airfield. If you want to get a little bit more aggressive, you can choose to cross out in the open like I'm doing in this video here below, where you use these trees and these rocks to your advantage, and then you basically jump straight into Airfield on the left side, about mid-block or so, near the hangars and near that administration building that I talked so much about in the Airfield video that you can go check out over here. So again, this is my favorite Lagoon drop. I really enjoy this rotation. I grabbed my weapons, I ran straight at the enemies in Airfield, and now we're in the mix getting kills left and right. So we rotate over, we get in the mix with a lot of the enemies, and then we jump straight into the action. We find a full team of 3 actually in the buildings on the outside of Airfield, right behind some of the larger structures, the larger hangars, which is a perfect opportunity to take a third party. They had probably just run into a team a moment before because we saw them on the mini map popping up shooting. So we run in and they immediately are down on their luck, maybe down a few plates, and we wipe them up with an MP40 and otherwise. All right, so I'm going to talk about the worst place to drop in Lagoon. Now, you probably already know this if you've watched some of my other videos. My least favorite drop is usually in the very back of the POI. Not always, but oftentimes it is, and that is certainly the case here. Look, the lighthouse is beautiful. I think they did a fantastic job designing this lighthouse and the area around the lighthouse. It's secluded. It's out on this peninsula. It's perfect. It overlooks the water. You can even see in the footage, I kind of get caught up and just like stare out over the water. It's amazing back here. But to be honest, the loot's not worth removing yourself completely from the game unless you want to play a little bit slower playstyle. That's totally fine. I think if I loot up the entirety of the lighthouse and the buildings that touch the lighthouse, I end up with somewhere around $10,000+ most times. So there is loot back here, but we've kind of realized along the way in this series that you can find loot just about anywhere as long as you're looking in boxes and things like that. The thing that I've really noticed about this map, by the way, as an aside, is that yes, boxes are around and all that good stuff, but honestly, you know what's different about this map than Verdansk? It's the size of the stacks of money that you find. And I don't know why this is the case, if they changed this on purpose or maybe it was on accident, or I don't even know. All I know is the stacks of money I find when playing this game are no longer $500 stacks that piss me off. They're like $2,000 stacks almost every single time. So maybe that's the reason I can find money just about anywhere on the map. But regardless, the lighthouse is a cool place to drop. It's fun, it's beautiful, all that, but it's not the place you want to drop when you're going for high kill games, for obvious reasons. You're secluded. The verticality of the lighthouse can be somewhat challenging if multiple teams drop here. There is a lot of rooms, a lot of hallways. It can get a little chaotic in here. The lighthouse has never been a hot drop, and it never will be. I mean, you can literally sit on the porch and drink your cup of coffee and have a great time, and you're going to be just fine. Some cool jump spots around in some of the buildings, but overall, it's a great view, not a great drop spot. You can see I even popped the UAV and found another one, and no one even popped up on the mini map. That's how secluded it can be. So Lagoon overall, a fun place to drop, kind of a middle tier pace drop, usually not that action packed, but at the same time offers up a fairly good rotation down through Airfield, which opens up doors to third party and still getting quite a few kills. So hey, if you liked the video, comment down below and let me know what you liked about it. If I missed something about Lagoon, certainly let me know that as well. Share it with a friend, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. Hey, I'll see you in the next video.